You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dumler, Broncos country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Get on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
Hello there, Broncos country, and it is once again time for another episode of Building the Broncos. I'm your host, Carl Dumler, and joining me today, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Mr. Nick Kendell. Nick, I'm sorry I had to miss Monday's episode. I'm still on vacation in Arkansas recording this down in beautiful country out here. I'm staring at a lake as I record this episode, so I'm sure you're wishing you could be here a little bit like me.
Oh, Carl, I always wish I was with you. That's what makes us just such a good cohabitants of the podcast realm. No, but I am jealous. I'm here in Iowa City in my bedroom looking outside, and the snow's melting. It's going to be warm here for a little bit, but get cold again. And then Friday, I'm going to make my way down to Kansas City for the Broncos game. I'll be with my parents, my sister and her boyfriend, and my wife. Still weird to say, and go into the game Sunday. So that'll be fun. Unfortunately for you Bronco fans out there, if you guys are superstitious, I have had not the best luck when it comes to attending football games. I've been to 6 in my life, and first game, let me see if I can pull it up here. I think it was 2008, my first and only game at Arrowhead. Saw the Broncos lose. Okay, so there's a loss there. Next game, I saw the Broncos in Indianapolis against Peyton Manning. Saw Dallas Clark go off. That was fun, but a loss there. 2011, I saw them in Green Bay, and that was a game where Aaron Rodgers threw for like 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, and also ran for another 2 touchdowns. So that was something else. Luckily for me, that was the year of the St. Louis Cardinals beating the Brewers in the NLCS, so I had the last laugh there. And also got to see Von Miller get a sack on Aaron Rodgers' rookie season, so I could live with that. Saw them lose in St. Louis in 2014. That was the game when Emmanuel Sanders got absolutely just destroyed and concussed out of the end of the first half. And Peyton Manning hurt his ankle or his lower body, and honestly it was never the same after that. I was there in 2015 at Indianapolis, and that was the Aqib Talib eye poke game, and swear to God, I went to a place, I cannot remember what it was called. It was a beer hall outside of Indianapolis. Indianapolis is kind of like a big roundabout interstate highway exchange that surrounds the city. But I was at a place, and lo and behold, guess who was there? Dwayne Allen, who had just gotten his eye poked by Aqib Talib. So I got a picture with Dwayne Allen after that game. And then last year, my first game actually at the Broncos Stadium. It's in Power now. It wasn't last year. And I saw them lose to the Rams. Bradley Chubb picked up 3 sacks, though, so I wasn't too sad. But yeah, I'm over 6. Hoping to break the streak here with lucky number 7, but 7 is a pretty lucky number when it comes to the Denver Broncos.
That it is. And I was just telling you before the show, I've been to, I can't even keep track of how many Broncos games I've been to, actually. Mine span clear back to the mid-90s. When my dad would take me to games and I had friends that had season tickets and all that fun stuff. But no, I saw my first Broncos loss 2 years ago. My first game in like 10 years. And the Broncos, of course, lose to the Patriots. It was a terrible game. They got blown out. So I think you and I've got the reverse thing going here, where now you've been to all losses. Now it's time for you to go to win. And what a win it would be. Oh, my goodness. I think this – could we say this would be the biggest win since Super Bowl 50?
Probably,
yeah. I mean,
Probably.
And just what it would mean for the fan base, what it would mean for the team, just to break that streak of losing to the Chiefs since September of 2013. How crazy! Oh, that tasted terrible coming out of my mouth. But
it's been bad.
It's been bad,
but hats off to the Chiefs. You know, we definitely don't. We're not fans of them here. I have a lot of family that are Chiefs fans, but you know, it's not right losing to them so much. And from, you know, getting whooped by them, that game where Peyton Manning threw all those interceptions, to Don Terry Poe throwing that little jump pass touchdown. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I am done with it. So
I understand.
I am hoping to see a win there, and hoping that the Chiefs fans aren't too rude there. You know, I like to tease a little bit and talk smack with friends, but when it comes to being a guest at a stadium, I'm not somebody to be in a drunken stupor and invoke rage or tension on myself. So hopefully, and I'll have some females with me as well. So I'm hoping those around me will be adults, but you never know. You know, humans are a variant bunch.
Yeah, that is true. No, see, I've actually, every Broncos Chiefs game I've been to has been crazy. I got to see the Delta O'Neal 4-interception game against the Chiefs in 2001. I got to see Elway's last regular season fourth quarter comeback, which was against the Chiefs. And then I got to see, it was the Josh McDaniels year where they blew out the Chiefs in Kansas City. And the famous no handshake at the end of the game with Todd Haley, is that right? Yelling at Josh McDaniels.
Yep.
That was my other Chiefs game that I've been to. So I've been to 3 Chiefs games. Broncos have won all 3, and they've been all very, very sweet to watch. So, I'm hoping I get to see another sweet game, get to see the true Lock era just really skyrocket all the further into existence. I mean, could you imagine just how crazy things will get in Denver if Lock can have another great game against the Chiefs on the road? Oh my goodness.
The hype would almost be, I'm so boring. I'm sorry about this, but it'd almost be too much. It's like, how can he possibly live up to expectations at that point?
It's true. He would be folklore.
And it's like, folks, I get you're excited, and it's been wandering the desert, so to speak.
It's been 84 years.
Yeah, exactly. And it's only been 4 years, which in the grand scheme of things is not a lot. I mean, if you've seen those memes, I'm sure, of the people wearing the Browns jerseys with like all the quarterbacks. Drew Lock is the 7th since Peyton Manning. That list of the Browns quarterbacks since, gosh, was it Bernie Kosar? That was absolutely just stupefying. So it's, we live in the moment. We kind of have, I like to say that, our perspective is almost too close from time to time. And that makes it seem like it's been way too long. Definitely the Broncos fan base is not used to it. But if Drew Lock can be the guy, 4 years is relatively nothing. And those 4 years, they've been rough. But they've allowed the Broncos to kind of reevaluate things, which was probably needed. Culture shift also in the locker room after that Super Bowl, probably needed, and build a young, talented roster that is starting to bud with some fruits of their work and change from the 2018, after the 2017 season, so the 2018 draft and onward. So excited about that, and hopefully that can continue.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I keep telling people, I think Elway's actually done some of his best work the last 2 years. Just because he has had to change up a little bit of how he views the draft, what type of players they're going after. With Manning, they could go after athletes and hope that they could turn them into stars.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of going, oh, wow, hardly any of those guys turned into actual football players that are productive for us. And they had to go back to a lot of what they were doing back in like 2011, 2012 of finding those guys that are real football players that might not test the greatest. But
culture is so important. We get suckered by the highlights and the athletic testing and where guys played. But like I have no issue. Like a Josie Jewell, I was obviously a fan as far as his college game because University of Iowa. But I knew that he was a limited player. But just the mentality, the work ethic, the being an adult in that room is so big, and that's something that they were lacking in there, even from, dare I say, a good number of the vets. So once that leadership from Peyton Manning left, they really just had to reset that locker room. And, everybody, I saw some Facebook posts, I think it was yesterday, people talking about how Elway was dumb for getting rid of Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders playing great at San Francisco, but that's part of it. That the culture needed to be reset, not only for Emmanuel Sanders, but for the Broncos as well. And now you're kind of seeing both thrive in these different situations. So just kind of need to get everybody in line in a row and have this culture change fully, underway under Vic Fangio and this new direction of the team. And it's exciting. It's really exciting. I feel as good about the direction and the future of this team as I have since, probably as the 2015 season started. Even then, it's this after the season, we're going to lose so many guys. So maybe even before that, but it's just hope springs eternal right now. And that it all starts with something we've been hammering on here for years, and people would get tired of it. But you're not doing jack squat in the league if you don't have at least an average level quarterback. I'm sorry. It's just like nothing else even matters unless you have like an all-time defense, which is, that is, you're more likely to, that's like winning the lottery, because you have to have all the right guys hit at the right time, the contracts stay healthy, youthful at the right time. It's just, that's longer odds than actually hitting on a franchise quarterback.
Right.
So,
and there you can only keep it together for about 2 years tops.
Yep.
So,
and you gotta have a lot of luck.
Yep.
Either way,
do.
you gotta have luck. But the best way, and I found it true with any sport, but the best way to compete and to get that championship, knock on the door repeatedly. And to do that, having the stability at quarterback and head coach, probably the big two. So, the window's opening. I guess that's what this rant all comes down to, is that's why we're so excited. And Drew Lock, even if he isn't the guy, I think he's earned 2020, and the possibility, the potential, it's hard not to get excited about. Now, has it all been perfect? No. Are there some issues with his read, sometimes with his footwork, still blah, blah, blah? Yes, but those were to be expected. I do think that they've improved. I mean, Rich Scangarello today was on the podium and talked about those improvements and the accuracy. I mean, you see it in the accuracy and the touch even. And that's stuff that still can be worked on and get better. But, man, they have a dude, and it's not only the traits, but everything, but it's also the energy and the leadership. It's just, again, I'm stoked. I try to be more analyst than fan on here. That's what it's all about for us. I'd rather be the boring scientist than the fanatic crazy person. I'm not on here screaming hot takes when I can help it. Sometimes I can't help it, but man, it's exciting. It feels good. And even if they get beat by Kansas City by 20 points on Sunday, it won't feel good in the moment, but it feels good about the direction of this team.
Exactly. All right. Well, we're getting long here for an introduction.
Yeah, that's
so
okay.
I just want to make sure everybody can find us on Twitter, because we're always tweeting out things. Nick had kind of a hot take actually on Twitter, that maybe got him in a little bit of trouble, but, no, you can find me on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and Nick at Kendell MHH. And you can find the podcast Twitter account at BTB Football Pod. And make sure you subscribe to our show and leave us a rating, as we value your input. You can find the show on iTunes, Stitcher, and even that of YouTube. Also, make sure you head on over to milehighhuddle.com, a new affiliate of the Maven Coalition and Sports Illustrated. And know that this podcast is powered by Overtime Media.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, and welcome back to Building the Broncos. I'm Carl, back again for our preview episode to the Chiefs game coming up here, and of course joined here by Nick. And Nick, it's hard for me not to want to talk about the Houston game, just because I've been out here with my wife and kid, and they like the Broncos, but they would rather me not talk about it. My wife keeps going, "Why do you keep listening to things about the Broncos?" And so I've had this all bottled up for the last 3 or 4 days here. And so it's exciting to get to talk some football and just look ahead to the Chiefs. I mean, this is I know a lot of people say Broncos Raiders is the biggest rivalry. But living in Chiefs country, or whatever you want to call it, Chiefs Kingdom, it's hard for me not to view Chiefs as the biggest rival. And just to be able to put a damper on their thoughts of maybe getting a bye week would just be all the sweeter. But here, real quick, let's just talk about what this team is, because they're kind of they're such a weird team this year.
I think they are a team that is unfortunately starting to get hot, get healthy, and get right at the same time. Which that's more so on the defense. They have.
I was going to say, actually, and it's almost reversed a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because their offense has been struggling a little bit over the last few games. Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't look like Patrick Mahomes the last few weeks. Actually, Pro Football Focus have them as 3 of his 4 worst games of the season have been his last 3 games.
Yeah.
And so I think that thumb injury is worse than some people are letting on. I mean, he still makes some incredible throws.
He's
but
still
you're
a top 5 quarterback.
He is, yes. I mean, that's just the thing. 80% of Patrick Mahomes is still a top 5, top 10 quarterback easy. And so, I mean, there's still plenty to be worried about, but you're still seeing some throws that you're going, oh, there was very, very little accuracy on that throw. Yeah.
I think also there's something to be said about the time that he missed. It just hasn't clicked as much since he's come back, and there's a lot to be said with chemistry. I mean, I don't want to go on too much of a tangent here, but Carson Wentz, when he was playing the year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, he looked like the next big thing. And then he got injured, came back, and he has not been the same since. So there's always, it's just guys kind of get on a roll and whatnot, and sometimes an injury being out can throw off that groove. And I'm not saying that's what's happening with Mahomes and any bit, but I'm just throwing it out there, maybe to the football gods. Just let them decide when it comes down to.
Right. No, like I said, there's just been some throws where even his big touchdown pass to which receiver was it this past week?
I do not recall. I'll just start naming them. Demarcus Robinson,
No.
Tyreek Hill.
No.
Mecole Hardman.
There you go. Hardman. Yep, that's
Okay.
the one. There
Second round pick, Mecole Hardman, who I was very upset they took because I liked him. But
Yeah.
I have a need for speed.
But they had that huge long touchdown to him. That was an underthrown pass. He was just wide open.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of that is, I guess, maybe you want to underthrow so you don't miss the guy, but still, it was not quite the perfect pass you would like to see. And so
it was
again,
no Drew Lock down the left sideline to Tim Patrick.
Yeah, he's no Drew Lock.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish we could say that.
Horse emoji, rooster emoji, lock emoji. Let's continue.
But no, so it's kind of been reversed a little bit where their defense is really coming on strong here lately. Just, I mean, flying to the football, causing turnovers left and right. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Defensive line just getting pressure like crazy. I mean, it really has come together really well for them here as the season has progressed on the defensive side of the ball. So I mean, they definitely have some areas of weakness we'll talk about here, but I just want to break down the raw stats here. They are 6th in total offense at 381.7 yards per game, 4th in points per game at 28.5. 5th in third down offense, converting 45% of third downs. I mean, the Bronco fans, I think, understand this all too well, how infuriating it is to have them like a 3rd and 15 and somehow they still pick it up. 7th in turnover differential at +7. 4th in passing yards per game at 288.7. 7th in quarterback rating. Like I said, even a hampered Patrick Mahomes is still a great quarterback at 104.2. Now, this is where you're starting to see some things, some holes in their game. Rushing offense, they're only averaging 93 yards per game. That's 27th in the NFL. They are 21st in yards per carry at 4.1. The whole idea that everybody afraid of Mahomes would open up the run game, that hasn't really been the case this year. That offensive line has just been not great at all. I mean, that's putting it nicely, I would say. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is getting pressure left and right. There's a lot of negative plays in the run game. I mean, one of the big things that they are good at in the run game is big play rushes, where they have 9 of 20 plus so far this year, and that's 11th in the NFL. So, I mean, you still got to worry about a big play in the run game, but it's still, this is one of those games that sets up well, especially with Derek Wolfe out, that they can still stop the run. It's going to be a matter of, can they get pressure on Mahomes?
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned if they can stop the run still, just because last week, I think game flow, early on, the Texans, especially up the middle, were really getting very efficient runs, 7 yards per carry up the middle. And because the Broncos were up 21-0, that we didn't really get to see them lean on that run game. And I think especially if it's going to be snowy and cold, that might be a little bit different this week. But that I am a little bit, just from the Broncos personnel and execution side, I am a little bit concerned with the run stopping in this game.
I can understand that.
Yeah, and DeMarcus Walker apparently injured. Draymond Jones might go on the IR. I mean, it's getting a little thin there. And I know that we have some thumpers at linebacker, but I'm a little bit concerned with the gumming things up at the point of attack.
Right. I understand. Yeah. All right, well, getting to the defensive side of the ball, they're 20th in total defense at 364.8 yards per game given up. 14th in points allowed per game, 21.6. They are 9th in the NFL on third down defense at 35%. 12th in passing yards allowed, 227.2. 11th in sacks so far this year. 6th in quarterback rating allowed at 84.7. Where they are weak, though, is they are 28th in rush yards allowed, 137.7. And they are allowing 5.1 yards per carry. That's 30th in the NFL. And so, again, the defense has been stronger over the last few games. They might have one player that's going to be missing that we're going to talk about here a little bit. That would be huge in what they bring to the defense. But really, this has been a pretty strong unit that has been very, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Trending up?
Yeah, trending up. But they always take advantage at the right time.
Yeah, opportunistic.
There you go, opportunistic. They might give up some yards, but they're kind of like the Broncos a lot, and they want to keep things in front of them, and they want to make you make a big mistake. They want to see that their defensive line is going to get home. They're going to trust that Chris Jones is gonna get there for him. That
future Bronco great Chris Jones to you.
We can hope. I mean, it's becoming more and more a reality, it seems like. So that very much could be where the Broncos decide, hey, we got our quarterback. We can go spin big on a Chris Jones and be okay with that. But of course, then Frank Clark, who may or may not play. This is that guy. He's got a stomach virus of some sort that last week almost kept him out of the game. I guess he started feeling better right before the game, so they let him play on limited snaps. And after the game, it came back with a vengeance. And it sounds like they're sending him to a specialist here pretty soon. And right now, they don't know if he's going to play or not. Or even if he does play, what kind of player he's going to be able to be. So that could be a huge thing for the Broncos if Frank Clark can't go, because he's been really... He started out the season struggling. He's really come on the last about 4 or 5 weeks.
That's a good call. I think their defense, I like this is, again, I'm probably going to be that old person where I'm going to reference this all the time when defenses are kind of like this, but they have an explosive offense. Granted, they haven't been as explosive as last year, but that was pretty historical pace in the past game last season. But their defense, like you said, they're going to give up yards. They're going to let you, get some explosive plays, but their goal is to be stingy in the red zone, limit you to threes if that's possible when the field gets compressed, and take that ball away. And it is the 2009 Saints mold. That team, I think they were, one of the bottom 12 teams in terms of yards per game, and they gave up a decent amount of points as well, but I believe they were top 3 in turnovers. And when you pair that with a Drew Brees and Sean Payton-led offense, you're going to be able to do some things. So that was big for them, and that's kind of how this Chiefs defense is going too. And hats off to Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. I know he was definitely being lambasted early in the season, but considering I don't want to say the lack of talent on this Chiefs team, but with Frank Clark being up and down, do not really respect their linebackers, and I think their cornerbacks outside of Fuller aren't that great. He's done a pretty darn good job with this unit, maximizing the talent on the field.
He's figured out that especially a lot of these guys are very good at coming downhill, getting after the quarterback. So their linebackers, kind of like with the Broncos, they might not be great in coverage, but they're good at getting after the quarterback. So bring them on blitzes, on those timely blitzes when it just sets up perfect. So, the Broncos are going to have to be really watching for that, because I'm sure that's going to be one of their big keys to the game, is getting after Locke, making him make some bad mistakes, making him have to make quick decisions. That's exactly what you try to do against a rookie quarterback. That's
any quarterback.
Well, yeah, any quarterback, but especially, I think a rookie quarterback, you can feel a little more comfortable blitzing.
Yeah.
And trust that is going to be able to get home or make them make a throw that they shouldn't make. And the Chiefs have had just some of the better, I'd say, secondary players at really forcing turnovers. I think over the last 3 games, their safety duo is very top notch in the NFL.
It's right up there with the Broncos. I don't want to say that too loudly, but Justin Simmons, I'll take Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson. And again, that might be just because I'm exposed to them more and maybe a little bit biased, and also better sample size with both those guys. But Tyrann Mathieu has brought an energy to that secondary and versatility. And Juan Thornhill, 2nd round pick, he is playing at a really high level. He's an athletic specimen with some versatility there too. So it's a good safety group. And when you pair that with a bunch of bodies on the defensive line that can get after the quarterback, Frank Clark or not, that makes for a solid enough defense when you got Patrick Mahomes and some weapons over there.
Right. A lot of the games they are playing with the lead, so they can just really pin their ears back and get after a quarterback. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that first quarter goes. Both teams, the Broncos and the Chiefs, have been some of the better scoring offenses in the first quarter. They've both been known to be able to get some leads. Now, the Chiefs have been better at holding that lead. Yeah. The Broncos, it seems like once the script gets done, what happens after that. But we'll see if they can do better like they did this last week of holding on to some of that. But no, it is. It's going to be probably, as much as I respect what the Chargers have on defense, and even the Texans with all their injuries still have some pieces on defense, I think this is going to be a much tougher matchup for the Broncos and what Drew Lock's going to be seeing on the field.
I definitely agree with you there. And last road game of the year and one of the most hostile road environments for a team that's trying to get a first-round bye. So a lot on the line here for the Chiefs. So we'll definitely see.
But anything else really stick out for you here in the raw stats?
Nothing too much in the raw stats. I just wonder, the Broncos, I think, sense that coming out of the Vikings game, that interior offensive line got pretty dinged up. I think going into the Bills game, we saw all three of the Broncos' interior offensive line starters on the injury report, and they have been struggling since then, specifically the interior trio, not only in pass reps, but they've been getting very little push at the point of attack in the ground game. And, Philip Lindsay isn't having as dynamic of a year as last year. He's good. I just don't know if he's, just an absolute game changer running back. And Royce Freeman's been somewhat disappointing for an early third-round pick at running back when you compare him to, other guys who get drafted in the top, 75. But I'm a little bit concerned. I know the Chiefs, we talked about the data here, that they've been giving up the ground game, but we said the exact same thing for the Scouts Eye preview in the game when the Broncos got just pooped on by the Chiefs and Matt Moore of all people. So I'm just a little bit concerned personnel-wise and health-wise that the Chiefs, despite their issues stopping the run this season, how much that's going to matter, because the Broncos' interior offensive line has been really, they're really just ailed right now.
For sure. Even in this last game, if you go back and watch, the offensive line did pretty decent, but you still saw a lot of communication breakdowns. You still saw a lot of guys just not being able, like you said, not be able to get any kind of push in the run game, letting guys break through for 0 negative plays. There was a lot of long third downs in that game. Hats
off to DJ Reader. He is one of the better nose tackles in football for the Texans, and he mucked up things, and obviously 2 long, good coming downhill linebackers, and those guys were exposed in the pass game. But I know the Chiefs not as good stopping the run, but the Broncos' interior offensive line right now, I don't think Connor McGovern's on the injury report, but Dalton Reisner still is with his ankle, and it's been rather obvious that he's dealing with that ankle. His play has dropped since going on the injury report. And I'm concerned there, because the Broncos will probably, with the Chiefs' pass defense, they'll probably try to run the ball. Probably, who knows? Maybe they'll switch things up and say YOLO and just toss it around the yard, which would be fun. But I'm concerned about the Broncos blocking right now, and if they have the difference makers on the interior to take advantage of that.
For sure.
We'll see.
Yeah. And I do think for the Broncos, Juwan James will be an interesting player.
If he plays.
Yeah, if he plays. Vic Fangio came out and said that his knee is bothering him again, and he did not practice on Wednesday for sure.
Did not practice Thursday either, which is when we're recording this.
Right. And so
and it's because his knee is still bothering him. That was a direct quote. So
right. And so you could tell a difference when he was in compared to Wilkinson.
Yeah, it was obvious. Wilkinson, bless his heart, I think he's played admirably, but that's never the word or the adjective you want to use to describe how somebody's performing on your football team.
Right. So. And so, that's going to be an interesting injury to keep track of. Von Miller's still obviously limited. The defensive line, are any of them healthy?
Purcell.
Well, he was even limited.
He was? Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Gotsis, maybe?
He did not practice on Wednesday.
Well, nope, they're all hurt. Every single one of them is injured then, off the top of my head. So, God, I hope they don't point at me in the stands and have me go down there on the defensive line. That would be something else. But, it's not good. And it's that time of year when these injuries start to happen. But I feel like the Broncos and Football Outsiders does something at the end of the year where they kind of rate injuries compared to league norms, and those tend to fluctuate. There's really no method or madness to it unless you're the Chargers, who are just ridiculously injured every year. But that's something to note, that this defensive line, Broncos are banged up. Interior offensive line, interior defensive line, and if it's going to be a snowy game, that is something to monitor.
For sure. But, it's crazy things happen in this league, so we'll see how that plays out. But like I said, injuries are definitely catching up to the Broncos right now. And they've played admirably, but there's a point where you start running out of players. And this might be one of those games where you see a lot of that start to catch up to them, especially even special teams is where I'm starting to think of that the Chiefs have had a top, I think they're 12th in special teams.
Yeah.
And they can stick a lot of speed back there for punt and kickoff returns. And Mecole Hardman or Tyreek Hill, I mean, whoever they decide to stick back there, either of them are dynamic players that can take one to the house.
Yeah. And shout out to Dustin Colquitt, who's one of the best punters in the game. And honestly, Butker, a fantastic kicker as well. So it's a solid special teams unit. And Dave Tube, there's a reason the Broncos interviewed him a couple years ago for the head coaching job. He's one of the better ones out there. So it will be interesting. So we should probably take a break. We're 30 minutes in, about 30 minutes. So we'll be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. We're going to keep talking about this Chiefs game.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Alrighty, and we are back on the Building the Broncos. I am Nick Kendell, along with Carl Dumler. Carl, it's time for the Coach's Corner. Today I have the pleasure of the Broncos defense going against the Chiefs offense, which not as fun, but, you know, what can you do, especially when you have the young quarterback and the weapons over there starting to emerge in the offense. But, you know, I'll let you have your fun this week. I get to go to the game, so I won't complain too much. But the Broncos defense has been playing okay this season. You know, honestly, they did pretty darn well against a very explosive offense of the Houston Texans last week, which was somewhat surprising. You know, seeing Laramie Tunsil get 3 false starts or something with Von Miller across from him, I enjoyed seeing that, and I'm very curious to see maybe that's something we can continue this week. You know, Von Miller typically lines up over the right tackle and rushes from there, and that's something that he's done, gosh, since he's been here. And then they'll rotate him sometimes, but that's mainly been his home. But he looked pretty good on that side, and you know, with Bradley Chubb not on this team, you can kind of be a little bit more liberal with where you are playing Von, left or right. And Mitchell Schwartz, one of the best right tackles in football, and been a guy who's held Von Miller pretty well in check. You know, Von's still going to get his from time to time, and offensive linemen are going to win, you know, 10 or 19 to 20 battles. But I think that if you can this week, given Von Miller's knee, and he felt more comfortable pushing off the right knee, I believe it was the right knee, to attack from over the left tackle. So we're probably going to see.
I was going to talk about that maybe that's exactly why they were doing that, was easier for him to push off that right knee.
They said that in one of the interviews.
Oh, okay. There you go. So yeah, it definitely makes sense. And Itachu's been amazing there opposite of him. So
I agree. And Hollins has done some stuff too.
Yeah.
So but the big thing for me on this defense is both these tackles are okay. Mitchell Schwartz, though, borderline all-pro, and where Eric Fisher is just average. And, you know, people like to really give Garrett Bowles a hard time, rightfully so, but at least they didn't spend the number 1 overall pick on him to be a slightly around average tackle, where Eric Fisher was the number 1 overall pick and is just okay. So granted, that was a terrible draft year, but still I like to give the Chiefs fans a hard time about that. So Von Miller against Eric Fisher, money. I'm excited to see that. I know Von is still running around with a brace on, and he's going to be limited, but I'm excited to see that. I am very concerned with the Broncos' interior defensive line, like we talked about in the last segment. You know, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, MD, is one of the better right guards in football when healthy, especially in pass protection. The left guard and the center are not as talented, but again, this Broncos defensive interior is pretty banged up. And I know Todd Davis had like 15 tackles last week, but a lot of those came farther down the field than you'd hope. So, you know, tackles can be kind of a lion stat. It matters where those tackles are occurring at. And so that kind of concerns me. So I'm definitely... With all that being said, the biggest thing is stopping Patrick Mahomes and his pass offense. And I say it every time, but you got to limit the big pass plays. So if you're going to give up rush plays and they beat you that way, sometimes the other guys are just better than you. You tip the cap. But I'm keeping Patrick Mahomes in that pocket as much as possible, compressing on him, not letting him escape, and keeping everything in front of you. Way easier said than done. Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, I mean, talented, and the Chiefs as well do an excellent job with the usage of not only 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver sets, but they use 12 personnel in 30% of their offensive play calls. So 2 tight end sets. They really like to get those teams in base and throw from that. They're very effective throwing out of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. Let me see if this will... Oh, this is kind of freaking out on me. I'll get back to that. But yeah, that's something that really does concern me in this game. Obviously Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends in football, but Blake Bell has done pretty well also. I believe he was a quarterback at Oklahoma, and he transferred to tight end because he was more of that heavy option quarterback, the Taysom Hill type, so to speak. But the Chiefs, out of that 12 personnel, 30% of the time, both run and pass. Their air yards per attempt out of 12 personnel is 9, which is the league average is only 8. So they're really looking to push the ball in 12 personnel out of those 2 tight end sets. They also run the ball pretty effectively out of those 2 tight end sets as well, at a better clip than most teams in the league, even though Blake Bell is a glorified big wide receiver, because he's not the best run blocker. So it's going to be interesting to stop them there. I am, like I've talked about the interior defensive line, I'm worried about that there, but I'm also extremely worried about the depth of the secondary. Isaac Yiadom has been playing better down the stretch. Let's be real there, and there's a reason he was brought in for Devontae Harris, who that Bills game and the Vikings game did not have a great showing. And Yiadom, he still has traits, he still has tools. There's a reason they're not giving up on him yet. But I'm just worried about the depth beyond him. It's this Chiefs team. They just hit you with so many weapons in space, and Andy Reid does such a good job of getting those guys in space with the scheme. Then you got a guy with Patrick Mahomes' arm and field vision down the field, creating new windows, escaping the pocket. So biggest thing, keep him in the pocket if you can. Pressure him slowly. It's kind of that impending, that wall scene in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom where it's kind of closing in on them. That's what you need to do with the pass rush. Keep them in there, be very disciplined, and then keep everything in front of you, because the explosive plays are what's going to kill you.
I like it.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. I mean, it is kind of you're going to give up something.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't stop all these weapons.
I just feel better because the offense, like the Broncos offense, actually might be able to, they have the potential to keep pace.
Yeah.
Where I've not been able to say that in 4 years.
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to keep pace? Obviously, this Chiefs the offense is better on paper, but we've seen flashes and throws and explosiveness down the field, specifically in the pass game, where if the Broncos do get behind, they have the ability to at least push back. It's not going to be out of hand immediately, probably.
Right.
Hopefully. So that gives me hope too with the defense. And if you get a lead and everything, I mean, obviously game flow matters, but right now I'd probably start off a little bit more conservative. They can't. I'm not letting them. If they're going to score points, I'm going to make them do 10-plus play drives, because Andy Reid is looking for those home runs every chance he can get. I mean, that's why he keeps drafting so much speed at wide receiver. But I'm going to make them earn it. That's the biggest thing. And that's what Vic Fangio is about too. Broncos are one of the lowest average yards per reception of any team in the NFL per defense. So they give up yards they give up a good amount of attempts underneath, but they rally to the ball. And that's a big thing about this defense. Keep everything in front. It's why tackling is so important. So that's what I'm going with, keeping it contained, keeping it slow, slowing the game down, and not letting them get those explosive home runs, because that's where they kill you.
I like it. Yeah. All right. Well, switching to the Broncos offense, and it's the first time all year it's been kind of, like I said, exciting to actually talk about this offense and what the Broncos were able to do in this past game. And I want to start off with this. I loved the way that the Broncos really set up their formations in this past game. They did a lot of things to really scheme guys open. There was that one play to, I think it was Hamilton, where he was hiding behind a tight end, an inline tight end on the right side. And so it was kind of one of those, it looked like he was coming in to help block on the run game. And then he shoots up towards the linebacker, looking like he's going to block him, and boom, cuts across the field. Wide open play for a big play for the Broncos. And one of the other big things the Broncos did is they really went into a lot of heavy sets and passed out of them too. I mean, let's make sure we know that. But this last game, they spent 53% of their snaps in 2 tight end sets. And for the season, they had been in a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, 1 tight end, 1 running back. I think around 64%. Well, this last game, they only did it 40% of the time. And so they really did want to play matchup football with those tight ends of Hireman and a Fant, of course. and try to get those guys going down the field, being able to make some plays in the pass game. And so again, this is one of those games. I think the Broncos should do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I think that they should really attack the linebackers of this Chiefs team. Just to give you an idea of where their linebackers are at. Hitchens, he's allowing 83% completion percentage his way and 114.9 quarterback rating. Damian Wilson, one of their other starters there, allowing 86% completion, 129.7 quarterback rating. Ragland, he has, his numbers are actually decent, but he's only been targeted 12 times because of injuries and just kind of in and out of the lineup this year. Especially third down, they'll take him out of the game. But these are guys that the Broncos can definitely attack. And in this past game, you saw just how much Drew Lock loved throwing to the tight ends. I mean, Noah Fant has a second 100-yard game, was just getting wide open on some great play designs and making catches. That catch in the end zone, I will say he got a little bit lucky. Just the ball pretty much landing on top of him.
Man.
But beyond that, I mean, he made some tough catches also. The first catch, really blocking out a defender. That was some of the best heads up football I've seen him play all year. But, no, that's one area the Broncos definitely can attack in this game. And it helps in just being able to set up where you can keep them in their big personnel packages and make those linebackers have to stay on the field to worry about the run game where they've been struggling all year. And you got those tight ends there to help block, as Hireman's a very good blocker. Fant seems to be getting a little bit better. There's still plenty for him to work on there for sure. I mean, I've seen a couple plays where he's still getting thrown around and whiffing on a couple blocks. But beyond that, I mean, it still opens things up of how you can attack this team, where they have to stay in those big packages throughout the entire game, which is not normal around the NFL. I mean, most teams are trying to get to those 3 wide sets, get them and get the other team's defense in nickel. The Broncos should do the opposite in this one. Go big and really set it up for those play action passes that were so good in this past game. I mean, Drew Lock just obliterated the Texans on play action. And then if you're going to attack the secondary, definitely don't attack the safeties. They've been very, very good. Kendall Fuller has actually been the guy that's been struggling the most in that secondary. Yeah. Now, they've been asking him to line up a lot, defending the top wide receiver. When they go to man coverage, he's the guy that does some of the following. Brashad Breeland does the same too, I guess. They kind of switch on and off on some of that. But no, he has really struggled some here. He's allowing a quarterback rating of 129 this year. And then in the run game, I do want to attack the edges, actually. The Chiefs are pretty stout in the middle with Chris Jones and Noddy. And, of course, their linebackers have some size to them. Where they've struggled, it seems like, has been to the edge. They just don't have as much speed in that defense in the front seven, especially.
Yeah.
And so I think the Broncos with that outside zone, which then, of course, sets up perfect for those bootleg plays. And we saw the Broncos try to do that this last time when they played the Chiefs, but Flacco's just terrible at it. He just can't get to the edge. That no team respects him to beat them. They can attack the run, and even if it is a bootleg play, they can still get back to stop Flacco. Where this is one of those games that's not going to be the case. I mean, obviously Drew Lock has enough athleticism to get to the edge. He can take off running. You can set that up just perfect. But it is going to be one of those, like you already talked about, you got to get an early lead. You can't sit there and allow the Chiefs to pin their ears back in this one and come after Drew Lock. That's going to end terribly for the Broncos. As much as Drew Lock has helped the offensive line so far this year, as much as his athleticism is a big attribute, it's still, this is going to be the tougher offensive or defensive line that he's going to have to face. I mean, against the Chargers, the Broncos worried a lot about what those edge rushers could do. So that's why they threw in a lot of the quick screens, 3-5 yard plays. Yeah. Because they wanted to get the ball out of his hands. And you can do that against the Chiefs some, but you're still going to have some plays where you're going to take some shots down the field. I would say early in the game, start with a lot of those quick passes. Force the Chiefs to have to move up a little bit. And then maybe in the second quarter, that's where you mix in some of the big throws down the field, get some double moves going where you get those secondary players trying to make a big play and jump a throw. I mean, they are aggressive, so they can give up the big plays over the top. They've done it this year a lot. And so that's one thing I do want to hint at, that the Broncos really could have a couple of those big plays down the field like they had against the Texans. But this is a game Drew Lock has to be careful. Chiefs are looking for the turnover. They're
a couple passes that were close.
They were. I mean, and he does have the arm strength to make up for even making a bad read.
Yeah.
And there were a couple bad reads in this last game where a lesser quarterback would have been picked off. So I think going back and watching the game, I've watched it about 4 times now. Drew Lock had a great game. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from it, but there were some things that he got away with that I think teams are going to pick up on and say, let's see you try that again. Yeah. And so this is one of those games where you could see him have a couple bad turnovers that you're kind of going, oh, where'd this come from? Well, it's been there. It's just other teams haven't quite been. I mean, they're just a half click slow of getting there. The Chiefs in their secondary, they have guys that are really instinctive, and I don't think they'll be that half click slow. So he's got to be protective of the football. I mean, it's one of those be cautiously aggressive. I mean, I know that's an oxymoron, but
yes, it is.
But it's kind of the real thing where you take your shots when you got them. I mean, if you see that you got man coverage on the outside and a guy going deep like Tim Patrick, then yeah, take that shot. But if it's not there, just you can't force it. I mean, that interception to Cortland Sutton, that was a forced play. And so this is one of those games where he's really going to have to play a clean game. But you still can't put the cannon away completely. I mean, he's still going to have to go out there and make plays for this team to win this game. They're not going to win this game 20-13.
You got to let the peacock fly.
Exactly. And so, but there will be plays to be made. I mean, like I said, there are weaknesses to this Chiefs defense. There are reasons that they've had their struggles and have been up and down all year. But they are a team that have lots and lots of playmakers. I mean, I will give them that they went out and spent a lot of money on this defense, and it's really starting to pay off for sure.
Yeah, they are starting to do it, and they're a dark horse. And I feel like we've seen enough from the Patriots. In the AFC North is Baltimore or bust. It's in the AFC right now, though. I think it's Baltimore, Kansas City, Patriots, and then whoever comes out of the South. And so they are definitely trending in the right direction, and goodness, it would be just awesome to knock them off in Arrowhead for the first time since week 2, 2015. Beat them, period. Forget about beating them in Arrowhead. Beat them, period. So we'll see about that. But yeah, no, good breakdown. I think you are correct there. And like I said, I don't mind them kind of throttling down if they have a lead, but you can't go to what they did against the Chargers because just how quick strike this offense is. I mean, we're seeing it in college all across the board. You can't take your foot off the gas because how explosive these offenses can be, and it's starting to trickle into the NFL as well. So even if you feel like you have a lead and you're trying to play some ball control, like last week after they scored that touchdown in the second half, I think they made it 38 to something. That made sense game flow wise. But if you're not up by 24, don't take the foot off the gas. They're just too explosive. All right, folks, we're going to take one more break. We will be right back. Do not go anywhere.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Alrighty, and we are back on the Building the Broncos podcast. I am Nick Kendell along with Carl Dumler. And Carl, I think we should get into the Broncos stuff still regarding this Chiefs game. We might have a little bit of draft stuff here at the end if we have some time. But Broncos are currently 10-point underdogs, which honestly is that closer than you think it should be? I'm surprised.
I was actually shocked after the Broncos just dismantled Houston that it wasn't a little bit closer.
Really? Okay, so I'm trending on the over here. I think that Chiefs, I think it's probably a safer bet to bet the over. But maybe I'm just being a pessimist and leaning into the fact that I haven't seen the Broncos win.
I will say the interesting thing is we've been doing this over-under for a while here. I think this is the highest that we've seen for the Broncos game here for quite a while.
Yes, definitely is. And we will see if that trend continues. But that's definitely a good sign, I would say. Maybe a bad sign for the defense, but a good sign. 45 points over or under. I'm not sure. I'd probably bet the under just because of the snow, but I'm hoping for the over because, damn, I would like some excitement.
I will say I can't remember which website I got these off, the Shark one.
Okay. Baby Shark?
Of course, Baby Shark too.
Yeah.
But no, they had the predicted final score 33-10. Of course, to the Chiefs.
That's not great.
I was kind of like, really? Okay. I understand like it's a road game. You start thinking there's got to be a letdown by the rookie at some point. But still, the Broncos have been one of the better teams. They've covered the spread 5 of their last 6 games, which is pretty phenomenal. I mean, they've been really counted out by a lot of people there in Vegas, and they've been able to do pretty well. And a lot of teams, I mean, maybe Vegas is figuring this out because a lot of teams will bet against the Broncos and then the Broncos cover. It's because a lot of the money usually goes against the Broncos. Now, they've gone over in 4 of their last 5 games. That was something that kind of surprised me. So
yeah,
that 45-point game their points for the game, that's something to consider for this one, that maybe some people are starting to believe that this Broncos offense could do something here. And then on the road, the Broncos are 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 games. So just, for you betting people out there, just some things to consider with the Broncos having a 10-point difference here. And especially Mahomes a little bit banged up. Is that offense going to be explosive enough to really take the air out of the Broncos this week? I don't know. I almost bet on the Broncos this last week, actually. I'm not one that's going to bet on the team that I cheer for, just because, homerism gets in the way of being able to be smart with money. But I almost did just because of that 9-point spread that I was going, man, I really think the Broncos can do okay. And now I'm kicking myself that I didn't.
Yeah, well, hindsight's 20/20.
It is.
But our superlatives here. Carl, you first. The Broncos win if
Drew Lock doesn't throw an interception, I think the Broncos win.
Oh, not one?
Not one. I'm not going to give him one interception. I think this is one of those games where he's got to go out there and not make that one bad mistake. I mean, last week it was, I don't think he throws that interception if the game's a lot closer. I think he was just getting a little too confident in himself and took that shot. But no, this is one of those games I do think he has to play a clean game. And the Chiefs are too good, especially with the Broncos being in Arrowhead, for him to go out there and throw a couple bad plays.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm going to go the Broncos win if, what was mine last week? I had a pretty good one. I think if 2 different wide receivers had a touchdown or something. Maybe I don't even remember.
Any other receiver went over 50 yards, I think it was.
Nailed it.
Other than Fant and Sutton, obviously.
I think I nailed it. I think Tim Patrick almost got it on one play. Maybe not. I don't know. 10 different receivers got the ball. That's beautiful. I'm going to go with if the Broncos can run for over 120 yards combined. I think this is a game that they're going to need to be more physical up front and help protect Locke in that way. And their running game has concerned me greatly the last 2 games, honestly, last 4 games. But I think that this is one that they need to win, and everybody's going to put a lot on Locke. I think he's going to come out maybe a little bit overhyped because, all the family. I think he's going to have like 50 family members and friends there or something. So I think the Broncos, if they want to win this game, let's shift the perspective a little bit. I think the ground game. I want to see over 120 yards on the ground and help, not put it all on the rookie quarterback playing in such a hostile road environment.
So you actually missed on your last prediction.
Oh, no. None of them got 50?
Well, you said over 50 yards. Tim Patrick had exactly 50 yards.
Curse you, Tim Patrick.
Come on, get that one more yard. Fight for it, man. No.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. I think the cooler thing was 10 different players catching a pass.
I think it might have been in the first half. They might have had 10 different players in the first half get a reception.
Did they? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, that second half, they really throttled down quite a bit after that first touchdown. Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, you're up that much. It makes sense. That's the one time you can actually pedal down there a little bit. But no, so you missed by 1 yard.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of funny. I can live with that.
Yeah. But so Broncos lose if blank.
I'm going to go the Broncos lose if Drew Lock has, let's say, 2 turnovers. If he has 2 turnovers, I'm going to say they definitely lose. And that could be strip sack or interceptions. But I think they got to protect it. And anything 2 or more, I don't see them being able to keep up.
Well, I'm going to go if the Broncos give up 3 or more sacks in this game. I just think this is, like I said, interior offensive line struggling. Chiefs have a better defensive line than what the Broncos have seen here for a while, especially on the interior. And so, I mean, how many sacks did they get last time they played the Broncos? Like 9?
It was a lot, but that was, old Joe back there.
Right, I understand. But, I mean, they were getting pressure like right off the bat.
Yeah.
And so this is one of those games, I think, again, they're going to try to come after the quarterback. And Drew Lock's going to have to be real quick with the football. And so I think if he gets sacked 3 or more times, I think it could force one of those turnovers that you're talking about, or both of them, or whatever. But I think if they can get home, it's really going to rattle Drew Lock and just throw off his game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The MVP, if the Broncos win, I'm going to hop in first here just to steal the thunder. Drew Lock. We'll just leave it at that. We can both say that if you want, but I'm just totally going to hop in front of you here and shine and pump my chest. Drew Lock MVP if they win.
I'll go to the defensive side just because we've been really harping on that the Broncos offense has to get up there and do something. I'll go defense here, and I'm going to say Chris Harris. I think this is, I mean, obviously we saw last time Tyreek Hill torched him for a touchdown. This is another tough matchup for him. He's got a speed, no matter who he goes up against, Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman. I mean, no matter what, he's going to have speed against him, and he needs to play one of his best games of the year for this Broncos team to really stand a chance.
Yeah, he's been trending down. I don't know if it's scheme, I don't know if it's age, blah, 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 but hopefully it just makes me sad. And I know a lot of people are using the feeling of inevitability that he won't be back as starting to turn on him, which makes me kind of sad because to me he's an all-timer. Mm-hmm. But it's business still. It comes down to business. So the GOAT, if the Broncos end up losing, I'm going to go with... God, he's been playing too good for too long. I'm going to go Garrett Bowles. I think this is a game where if things get out of hand, I could see him snowballing, and it's just a symptom of the offense as much as anything. But he is a GOAT many times, not in the greatest of all time scope, but I think that he's one that I'm a little bit nervous for in that regard.
Well, I was going to go offensive line here actually also, but I was going to go Austin Schlottman.
Okay. I thought he looked okay in the pass blocking.
He did okay. He had about 3 snaps that I really saw him just get pummeled. And
he offered little to nothing in the run game.
Yeah. And then the other thing was there's a couple other plays where you could tell he did not have great awareness of what was going on around him. They attacked his gap a lot with blitzes. And there's a lot of times that you had a free runner right at Drew Lock. Now, thankfully, he was able to get the football away quick enough. But I could see that the Chiefs will pick up on that and say, let's keep attacking this young guy. I don't know what Ronald Leary, I hope he's back. That'd be great. And then that would completely dismantle my whole GOAT thing. And then the Broncos win anyway because they don't have a GOAT on the field. But no, I just see him having a game where they're going to really work to attack him. And I could see him just giving up about 2-3 sacks.
Alrighty. And the unsung hero, if the Broncos win this game, I'm going to go with the influenza, I'll call him the influenza pass rusher. Not the affluenza, but influenza. Jeremy Achu. So hopefully the sickness of Frank Clark doesn't get over to him. But I think he's been playing great. And one thing that I really like about him is because of his size and how methodical he is in his pass rushing, he's one that is so disciplined in his rush lanes. And with that wingspan and everything, if Mahomes tries to escape, he could get a hand on him and at worst slow him down and let some guys catch up to him. But I think Jeremiah Achu is a guy that could be a real unsung hero in this game if the Broncos end up winning. Even if they lose, but I think he's one that I have circled. I've been really quite pleased with him as a pass rusher. not as much in coverage, but that's, we're getting nitpicking for a guy they brought on as a street free agent during the season.
I'm going to go Jeff Hireman.
Okay. I was thinking about him too.
I mean, it just makes sense. They're going to have a lot of 2 tight end sets. He's going to be asked to do a lot of the lead blocking on the run game. And then, of course, teams are going to focus on stopping Noah Fant and Cortland Sutton. And they're going to pretty much say, anybody else beat us. And I think Jeff Hireman, I think he's a better receiving option than people give him credit for. I don't think he's
he sees the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been his issue. It seems like when he finally starts really getting involved in the passing game, he gets hurt. Yeah. But maybe this is that one game where he really turns it on and then he gets hurt at, fourth quarter or something like that. But the game's already over. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't want to wish injury on anybody, but no, I think this is a game where he's going to have some nice matchups. And I think the Broncos could really, I loved how they schemed a lot of their tight ends open this last game. I mean, they just did such a great job of those delayed releases. One guy going one way, the other guy going the other way, faking that they're going to block, all those kind of things that they were doing with the tight end position. I loved it. And I think that, again, that's why Jeff Hireman could really be open on quite a few plays.
Yep. I agree with you there. So final score, Carl, I'll let you go first.
All right. I would take the over in this game. I'm going to say, unfortunately, I do see the Chiefs winning this one. And I'm going to say that the Chiefs win 30-27.
Well, Carl, I'm going to be there, and typically like to be a naysayer. Not like to be, but typically my natural homeostasis is pessimism and realism. I'm throwing that all to the wind. I'm going to be there. I'm going to break my streak. Broncos going to end up winning fourth quarter game-winning drive. Drew Lock leads him down the field. Broncos end up winning 31-28, and Chiefs fans go home really sad. And I am 100% here for it.
I will say, let me just put this out there. Part of me picking the Broncos to lose, I've picked them the last 2 weeks to lose, and they've won both games. And okay. So, it's one of those, it's kind of like your lucky underwear. You don't want to wash it. I'm not going to wash picking the Broncos to win, because then if they lose, I'm going to feel really bad about that. So that's why I'm picking them to lose in this one. I do think this is going to be a great preview for years to come of these two quarterbacks getting to battle it out and see who can win on that final drive.
Wait a second. Lucky underwear. Are you implying that people own more than one pair?
Well, I mean, I only have one pair of Lucky underwear. I don't change it.
Okay. I was going to say, I just, when they start to get a little bit crusty, just flip them inside out. That's probably TMI. And we were gonna do some draft talk here, but folks, we're already at an hour, so we should probably wrap that up and give that to you another time. But we'll definitely be talking some draft going forward. The season's still here, so we got plenty of time to talk draft. But that's gonna wrap up today's episode of Building the Broncos, powered by Overtime Media. You can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Make sure you head on over to Mile High Huddle, an affiliate of the Maven Coalition and Sports Illustrated. Head on over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and a comment, as your support can help us continue to bring you our Denver Bronco deep dives. You can follow the Building the Broncos podcast and all our other great audio content by subscribing to the Huddle Up podcast wherever you listen to your shows. You can follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. For Carl, I'm Nick, wrapping up another episode of the Building the Broncos podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. Go Broncos.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.